visited Kiev in 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me be clear again. I'm sorry. Joe Biden says he was afraid of a possible assassination attempt by the Ukrainians, not Putin, during a visit to Kiev in 2023. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I thought the Ukraine was allies and Putin was a real bad guy. So let's go find out what he's saying. Putin, what's wrong, Biden? Is there Biden? Blink twice if you're in trouble.
I didn't think that Putin would dare take out an American president. I was worried, concerned about a radical element within Ukraine that was under the control or working with the Russians might try to do. That's why we went so way out of our way to get the best people to travel in that 10-hour ride in that train. I didn't think that.
So in other words, he was afraid of a radical element. Huh. Well, there aren't any radical elements in Ukraine, are there? There's not like organizations there that, might make things very difficult. But he was afraid. He was scared. And as Spy Dirty says, look, fat. Look, fat. He was afraid. Good old Joe Biden. Good old senile Joe Biden. All right. And as Herb Green says, fire breathing truce dragons, dragon emojis in the chat. Make it happen. Make it happen indeed. But there's more to this. Joe Biden says he warned Netanyahu about carpet bombing the entire communities 10 days after October 7th. Bibi replied, well, you did it. And that was enough for Biden to continue sending arms for another 15 months. Oh, that's right. You heard it. Bibi told Joe, hey, you guys carpet bombed communities. You guys did it. Try not to punch your screen, folks. I wanted to start off with a humorous note. Now get angry.
I said, but Bibi, you can't be carpet bombing these communities. And he said to me, well, you did it. You carpet bombed, not his exact words, but you carpet bombed Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people.
And then for that one moment, Joe Biden's brain worked and said, oh, yeah, that's right. We did do that, didn't we? We did do that. And don't forget, he also probably said, hey, don't forget, we own you. We bought you. All right. And we also own all your politicians because everyone in D.C., to quote Thomas Massey, has an APAC, a babysitter. How is this man president? I mean, seriously, folks, if he was on the phone negotiating, he was just probably like, yeah, give me ice cream. Again, Joe, you're out of your element.
You carpet bomb, not his exact words, but you carpet bomb Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war. I said, but that's why we came up with the UN. New deals by which what we would do relative to civilians and military.
So he was comparing 21st century war tactics, battle tactics, with World War II.
Well, what he was really doing is he was going after me for saying you can't indiscriminately bomb civilian areas, even if the bad guys are there. Even if the bad guys there, you can't take out 2, 10, 12, 1,500 people, innocent people, in order to get the one bad guy. And he made a legitimate argument. His perspective said, look, these are the guys that kill my people.
Legitimate. Hey, weren't they giving it a warning in advance like a year ago that something was going to take place and no one did it? And then what does the war have to do in Lebanon or Syria or the back and forth with Iran? This is madness.
These are the guys that are all over in these tunnels. Nobody had any idea the miles of tunnels are down there. It's amazing what they built. and they're sometimes 200 feet under the ground. Well, the way to get to them is take out the places where they were under which they.
Are we certain about the intelligence there, Biden? Are we certain about the legitimacy of these sources of information? Okay. First of all, number one, how accurate is the intel? Number two, let's look at the locations that were hit. Community centers, homes, apartments, business areas, marketplaces, hospitals, schools, places of worship, not only just mosques, but churches too, universities, refugee centers. It's almost as if what was happening there in Gaza was a full-on destruction of the Palestinian people.
Got to the tunnels. And so that's the first time I had the discussion about bombing civilian areas was when I went over after the 9/11, after the massacre that occurred.
So on that first trip, 10, 11 days after October 7th, you already raised the issues of how to get to a ceasefire.
And he did nothing. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay? That's what happened. Absolutely nothing. He raised the issue, and then he forgot about it. Well, we didn't forget. We saw how men, women, and children were getting hit and targeted. We saw how first responders and first aid workers were being targeted. We saw what happened to the World Central Kitchen aid workers. Remember them? Yeah, remember those people? The reason why they were blown up. I mean, it went from point A to point B on a approved route, delivering food. And let's not forget the hundreds of journalists whose lives ended as well. I mean, Biden, you could have raised up a little bit more. You could have pushed back a little bit more. You could have questioned things a little bit more. You could have fought harder. And since then, the death toll is so high, I wonder if you'll even notice because it's blocking out the sun. So you might be enjoying the shade, but that's the piles of bodies that your administration willingly turned its back on. You knew about it, and you did nothing. Hey, vote blue no matter who, and anyone who thought holding Biden's feet to the fire. You still want to talk all that trash? Because if it's true he knew and he did nothing, then I'm so glad I never supported Biden or his administration ever. I'm glad I didn't vote or support him in 2020. I'm glad I did the same thing in 2024. And that goes for all the Democrats. He knew. They always knew. And they did nothing.
It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Whether or not in Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
I don't mean to sound alarmist, but most of what they let you read is garbage. Most of it's designed to warp our minds until subconsciously you find you'll take the time to lick their boots free of grime and wipe their minds free of tarnish. Oil is the centerpiece, a body count of millions is the garnish. So how's it feel to know we funded every carcass? That every year our taxes pay for carpet bombing Gaza under shroud of darkness? Or that we spend enough a year to house and feed each homeless person in the streets on turning families in apartment buildings in the Middle East to bloody craters full of charred garments? And our media is silent at best. At worst, they confine it in themselves to call war crimes clashes and label children burned to ashes terrorists who played a stupid game and reaped the harvest. And every time we try to paint the truth, the news sends their slugs to suck off all the varnish and distort it into something harmless. See, the media will hang you by your feet and keep you half asleep. So yes, I'm here to set you free, but freedom won't be sweet because you'll fall 1,000 feet when I come cut you out your harness. They say those who dream the deepest fall the farthest. They also say that home is where the heart is. But if home for you is Gaza, Netanyahu's got you painted as a target. Perhaps it's not the impact, but it's what you see when falling that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the sound of all those children crying out in those apartments that will hit the hardest. Maybe all those little bodies scattered in the dirt will hit the hardest. Maybe seeing human lives assigned such little worth will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're paying for the darkest of atrocities committed on this earth that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that we give 10 million a day to oppressors who possess the kind of Medicare you'll die in debt before you see that's gonna hit the hardest. Maybe then you'll see you've always had more in common with the commoners whose slaughter we fund every day in Gaza than our senators and bosses. Maybe then you'll see our country never had a conscience. Maybe then the retroactive guilt will make you nauseous. Maybe what hits harder than the impact is the act of being conscious, of knowing your complicity and helplessness to try and stop the bloody deeds of Congress. And that no matter who's in office, America preserves its foreign interests by whatever means its greed demands, however monstrous. You see, we'll always need a place to drain our contras. And Biden's got a backup plan should harm befall the Holy Land. Wipe it off the map, he'll draw it back on with an iron hand. He demands an Israel or reasonable effigy to exercise democracy and colonize the Middle East. Regardless of the human cost of phosphorus atrocities, bought and paid with money they rerouted out the budget for the non-essential things like ever making Flint's water clean. So maybe what hits hardest is the day you see this country for its actual priorities. And nevermore no honest peace attempting sleep. Maybe then you'll look at politicians making speeches like a blood-encrusted beast espousing destiny to empty seats and fellow leeches. As the gauntlet of democracy extends its brutal reach, like a giant wave of trash come to crash on foreign beaches. Maybe build a base, throw a flag down and heavily pollute the region. Rape your ecosystems, gut your fauna and congratulate you on your new allegiance. Oops, we mean alliance. This is something mutual unless you're non-compliant. We stole something crucial on which you can be reliant. So maybe what hits hardest is the centrist saying both sides need to stop the violence. And those would be the very same centrists saying we should all accept police brutality, who hem and haw and clutch their fucking pearls and spend their time condemning riots. But very soon will come the day the centrists all get censored like the rest of us, and pious as they'll try to be, they won't stay quiet. But they'll just end up shouting in the void that they were also quick to render us subscribers. And it will be too late to light the fires. So far away tonight, there burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Which is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. And call it foreign interests or American desires. This is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. Far away tonight, there burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Call it foreign interests or American desires.